My name is Hua Jin. I come from China, Shanghai. I immigrated here at the end of 2007. So I've been living here for almost 4 years and a half. I study photography here at American University. So graduate soon, next week. So the title of this show is called My Big Family. It is a long-term and ongoing project, which I address the big family, the idea of the big family back in China, in relation of the one-child policy, to see how this policy changes family structures from big family to small family. I start to take photos since 2001. That because of the death of my father, the heaviness inside of myself make me want to find an outlet to release this depressed. So I start to travel along. During the travel, I bring a camera. So since then, I start to take photos. I try to find an answer of my confusions about death, about life. So start to observe the world and through the lens of the camera. I started this project since the summer of 2010. And I think that was the second year I came to Canada because my identity as a new immigrant, I feel very few relations in this land and few relations of people here. So actually, basically, it was the homesick and the loneliness makes me to think about my family. But due to the death of both of my parents, so I start to think beyond my own small family. I start to think about my extended family. So I think there is a really great regret that I didn't have a chance to take photos of my own parents. So I think I still have a chance to take photos of each of my extended family members. That's the very original start point. But gradually, I start to think about what is happening back in China, back in Chinese family. So this project actually relates to Chinese one-child policy because I do feel lucky that after my parents died, I still have a twin sister. But how about if I'm just a single child? It's gonna be very sad, and we feel very helpless. So I start to think about this from my own personal experience and family stories. And Chinese government start to promote the one-child policy back in, I think it was at the beginning of 1970s. They start to promote this one-child policy, but officially it announced, I think it was 1978. I was born in 1976, so I was one of the very few generations that to start to affect by this policy. But still, as I said, I'm lucky, I'm twins, so there's nothing they can do about it. So I do feel very lucky that I still have a sister after my parents died. My extended families, they live in different locations, different places, different cities in China. So I went to northern area and eastern area in China, such as Shanghai, the big city, and some rural place like some countries close to Beijing. Because the family members, in terms of their living condition, their educational background, their lifestyle are very different. There's dramatic varieties you can see through these works. I want to see how this big policy affects ordinary people's life, because these people, they just overlooked during this significant transformative period in China, because the rapid development in China, the Chinese position in the world is changing. But these people's life, they do sacrificed something in terms of this big and huge development in China. The newest story is, unfortunately, my grandma just passed away last February. I think this show is, for me, is a chance to memorize her, and she's the oldest member in this big family. The loss of her is like the loss of one generation. Like back to my father and my mother's generation, they have like at least 3 or 4 or 10, even 10 brothers and sisters in one family. But right now, just for example, look at my sister's family. It's only my sister and my brother-in-law and one child. I showed this project back in China, so I hope these young generations, they can get something from this show to have a sense that how the big family, how the beauty of the big family instead of the single family. And actually, this single child, they are really lonely. Like they don't have a brothers or sister to play with when they like young, and so there are lots of pressures because the highly competitive phenomenon in China. They have to put lots of time and energy on study, on learning some like piano, like ballet or something, whatever. No matter if they love it or not, it's just the pressures come from the society, come from the others. They are lonely. They don't have friends to play with, so they are sacrifice their childhood to the big development in China. The value system between the older generation and my own generation, even the younger generation, is changing, is different. Because back to my older generation, is the collectivism, it was the value back in China. But right now, I think the individualism is growing, because the single child, they were spoiled by 4 parents. They become self-centered. But I don't want to see this as a negative thing, but this is what is happening right now. So it is something that worth to think about. How do they learn to take care of others? The lack of the relationship produced the lack of the environment for them to learn how to share, how to love. But this is not their fault, you know. This is just a phenomenon right now. The other purpose of this project is to memorize my parents, because they passed away very early. So I went back to my hometown to talk to my uncles, to my aunties, just in order to know them from others' voice, from others, descriptions. Because sometimes when I really think of my parents, I always ask myself, do I really know them? Because you live them every day, you eat with them, you do everything with them, but you don't really explore who they are. Like that's because I want to know who am I, so I want to know who are my parents, so I went back. I consider this project as interactive, not only I'm doing this project, but also the project as a response, it can give me some feedback. Not only during the process of taking photos, but also I earned something from the exhibitions, from the shows, from the response from my audience, from their stories. They give me some ideas.